On April 18, 2017, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, signed an executive order which said buy American and hire Americans. Now, that directly had an impact on India because we're talking about the H-1B visa. One of the issues that largely also engulf the workforce, because the US market is one of the biggest markets where our information technology minds are taken and they work there. Today here in the IT hub of the country, Bengaluru, we will discuss, and I have some of the best panelists in the country with me together to give a lowdown on the problems faced, the ground realities, and possibly the solutions that could be brought about. I'm Rohini Swami, and today we will be discussing the H-1B visa, and my panelists here will be telling us exactly what the situations are. I'm joined by Mr. Ravi Gururaj, Executive Council Member in NASSCOM. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Gaurav Gupta, you're the Principal Secretary, IT Department, State of Karnataka. Mr. Mohandas Pai, you are the Chairman of Aaron Capital, but also a man who has been with our Make in India, Infosys, and you are the founder members. Here I'm joined by Mr. Chris Lakshmikant, CEO Headhunters. You will also talk to us about recruitments and how you recruit largely for the IT companies in India, US. Mr. Venu, you are the CEO of OmniSling. You also have been there. You can give us a ground reality as to the reality check of what's happening in that place. And Mr. Loveleen Bhatia, you also, as part of CEO Edureka, you're training people and for those skills where they are applying for the H-1B visa. And today, with my panelists here, let's talk about the hot topic, which not just burns India, it burns many countries. So what is, if I can start with you, Mr. Ravi, is the real problem? The thing is, it has been a part of the political rhetoric we have seen during the Y2K, we have seen during Obama's rule, we have seen it during Donald Trump's. But why is it that it still continues after that?
I think, listen, anytime you have a change of leadership, oftentimes the new leader wants to come in and demonstrate in evidence that they're going to make tangible changes. And, I think jobs is clearly a very hot topic, and creating jobs in the US is a hot topic. But I think, the focus on the H-1B and the focus on Indian IT services is a little unfair. I think the numbers involved are relatively small. The reason there's even those numbers are there is because there's a talent gap in the US. And the Indian companies are working collaboratively with lots of US companies to deliver productivity gains to them, to make them more competitive, to fill gaps in their talent spectrum, right? In order to make this happen. And a very small fraction of the folks actually work in the US that are delivering services globally, right? Then if you look at the actual numbers, I know certain statements were made by politicians in the US that half the visas were taken by Infosys and TCS, and it's not true. I think we should bust some of those myths.
I'd like to take you on that point, but before that, Mr. Pai, if I can ask you, is there a reason to worry at this point of time?
No, I don't think we need to worry too much. We need to know how to manage the rhetoric in the United States. Rhetoric has been there now, it's been there earlier, it's been there much earlier. And I think what we need to do is to get prepared for the time when there's more automation. Let me give you some data. I think once we have data, things fall into place. The US has 4 to 6 million people working in IT, depending upon the classification. Unemployment is 3 to 4%. 3 to 4% because talent is available in some cities, work in other cities, so talent does not move. 600,000 vacancies are there in the United States in this field. And if you ask any industry, the number one problem about people is IT. They just don't have enough talent because the US has only 55,000 computer science graduates coming out every year. And they need at least 300 to 400,000 people every year because it's a very, very huge market. But that's the scale of the market. If you take the H-1B visas, 65 plus 20 into 6, 3 plus C is 510,000 visas, but people don't apply. So there are about 450,000 live visas, out of which Indian companies could be having maybe 150, 200,000 visas, out of which 150,000 people will be on site at any point of time.
So in terms of percentage, you're talking more than 50%?
Well, more than 40%.
More than 40%, but NASSCOM said only 8.8% of them actually got H-1B.
No, 8.8% applied last year. This is cumulative over the last 6 years. In the last year, they applied 8%. 2 years back, they were 35%. But the big issue is 73% of visas given last year were given to Indians. Because India is the global source of talent. So it is not a large number. If there were Americans available in America with the talent, American companies hire them, Indian companies hire them. Because Indians going there and working are not cheap. They cost $125,000 to $150,000. The mean wage is $75,000 to $80,000, $10,000 for visa cost and everything else, social security, travel costs, insurance. It costs $100,000. They bill them for $125,000 to $150,000, and they're not cheap. If you get an American citizen for $75,000, $80,000, American companies will hire them, Indian companies will hire them. Indian company send their people on project work. This is not permanent work. They don't go there for 6 years
for a temporary
and stay there.
phase, largely it is.
Yeah, in my view, 25% come back within 6 months, 60% come back within 18 months, and they go back again. It is for going and coming on project work that is being used, not by shipping bodies and staying there. So people have got misconstrued as if somebody is taking up jobs because of some small incidents. And 85% of the use of these people is by Main Street America. It is not by Wall Street, not by Silicon Valley.
You made a very important point about the fact that there is a fear that you're taking away jobs. Mr. Chris Lakshmikant, do you think that when you're also talking to people and hiring them, especially for top companies, is it a sense of fear that now looking at the situation after Donald Trump has made his statement that will I get my visa? Is it safe to work there? Will I get a job there?
See, there are 2-3 things. One, students, people who are in engineering or were working in an Infosys or a TCS, earlier after 5 years, they could automatically go to US because companies they had a HR policy like that. Today, the companies are very clear. They don't want to send so many people. If Infosys sent, let's assume, 10,000 people last year, this year they are only applying for 5,000 people. So the number of people going from Indian companies will come down. This will in turn affect people who are joining the engineering colleges and IT. Already we can see that. Now the second part, what we are seeing is there are a lot of guys who are in California or New Jersey who want to come back because they are worried that they will not get a H-1B renewal or they will not get a green card. So what will they do? They have to come back.
That I'd like to bring Mr. Gaurav Gupta on that. A lot of talk. We have also seen reports, especially was one that came in last week about how families are so upset with the fact that they have to return because of the H-1B visa issue, they're even committing suicide. But as a state government, and because Bangalore is symbolic, not just because we have so much of workforce, but we have so much of intellectual capacity here itself, what can the state government do specifically to possibly engage in this dialogue?
As far as the global talent is concerned, it will move where there is more necessity. Okay, we are living in a globalized world, and if American companies require talent, and if India has it, and if Karnataka has it, it will move there temporarily till the time they are not able to cope up with it. And then thereafter, if the opportunities in India become more, we'll have Americans coming and living here and working here.
Like we just saw Infosys announcing that they will be giving 10,000 jobs to Americans, especially.
Yes, that was in US. But
yes,
what I'm saying is there can be a scenario in which foreign nationals come and work here in India.
Correct.
If opportunities in India are far more. So the issue is, what is your ecosystem? What is the environment? And if the US still continues to be the most innovative country in the world, that is only because of the talent they have. And talent, global talent is coming into America.
But do you think there's also a need for more transparency from the IT industry as such while talking and holding dialogue with the government?
No, I would say that there is a perception that has crept in the last presidential elections, and maybe lately some people were not really getting benefited out of the prosperity in the US. It was not percolating down to the some particular levels, and so therefore the issues crept in the presidential campaign. And I think that issue may get settled down over a period of time. What we need to do is that Indian companies are adding a lot of value. They are adding a lot of benefit to the American ecosystem, and that will continue, and this needs to be properly publicized. And I think a lot of effort has gone from the NASSCOM in collaboration with Government of India, in the MEA and the DIPP, working at dispelling that notion that Indian people are taking away jobs.
Mr. Pai, do you agree with this?
No, I want to add a point, because look, the last 15 years, middle class jobs have shrunk in America. They shrunk due to automation. About 10 million jobs have disappeared due to manufacturing going away, due to automation, due to lack of skills. Today, a young person in America has a 20% probability of earning the income of his parent. 10 years back, it was 70%. This is part of a mega trend of automation and robotics that is happening. In the midst of this, you have H-1B. So Americans are feeling we are losing our jobs, our children don't have jobs. Now in H-1B, people are coming from outside. What they forget is, if they educated the children in IT and got the skill, they would have got all the jobs. in Silicon Valley, 35% of startups are founded by Indians because Indians have got STEM degrees. There are 162,000 Indians studying in US universities today. China has got 325,000. Out of 162,000, about 60% are doing graduate studies, master's studies. There are not enough American kids doing STEM degrees. If they'd done that, they would have got the jobs. So they've not been doing it. The anxiety levels are high, and the anxiety levels are going around in this kind of a thing that, ban them, ban this, build a wall in Mexico, build a wall in Atlantic, ban these fellows, ban China, because they're not able to find the root cause. The root cause is lack of good educated young people in America for the STEM industries.
And one aspect also which I'd like to put to you, Mr. Ravi, is that there's a sense of feeling of ghettoism amongst especially people in the US, saying that Indians, they do their work, they do not socialize with us, so we feel that they've come to take away our jobs, they've come to do everything that we feel threatened about, and you all live in your community, you do not interact and socialize with us. Is that, why is that? Is that going to be a problem, especially because we've also seen that could be one of the reasons why such kind of policies or amendments are being brought about?
I don't see that ghettoism. Honestly, this is the detractors who are just throwing muck in the air, right? I think, it's very unfortunate that they use that kind of term. I don't see any ghettos there. I see a community.
This is made by an analyst from India.
It's possible that, people who've just arrived in a country, and this happened with every immigrant group that came, they got together, they understood, they supported each other, and that may be reflective there. But that's because many of these folks have just arrived in the country, in the US.
But this is a short-term problem, especially...
Yeah, and I think, you go across Silicon Valley, every company, every board, every community, you see Indians involved. In fact, there's a big organization there, the Indiaspora organization, that has all the leaders of the Indian community from across the Indian diaspora who've got together and actually are contributing across society. They don't look just to contribute to Indian organizations or anything.
Mr. Gupta has a very big smile on his face. Obviously, are you subscribing to what he's saying, or do you think that rhetoric will continue?
I would say that, you see, the East Coast and the West Coast of US have always seen much more immigrants as compared to the heartland. Okay, the middle of the US, which is the red states, they have not seen so much of immigration, and that's why when they see a little change in demographics, they feel alarmed by it. And coupled with it is the fact which Mohan talked about, is the automation that is happening. Nevertheless, it's like societies are changing, and technological advancements are bringing about loss of jobs in certain sectors, growth of jobs in other sectors. Now they are not well equipped to handle those jobs. And that's why they are blaming it on the visible manifestation, which is like the increasing number of Indians or other non-white people in the red states. But if you see the East and West Coast, I don't think they are absolutely worried about more and more immigrants coming in. They would like, because they want global talent. Otherwise, they will not be competitive at all. So the issue is, we need to understand this from the prism of for the US politics. The US politics is what is driving all this. And let us also face it, a sovereign country can have laws for protecting its own citizens and promoting the jobs of its own citizens. And so long as that is there, we should not get worried. If we have value, in that case it will happen.
But it's also becoming, like we are saying, it's becoming a political rhetoric.
No.
So there are shades.
The political rhetoric is coming because all politics is local. Obama was for globalization. Obama was for openness. Trump is for America. America to make great, because he is getting to a country, he's making the right kind of noise.
He's made a promise.
He's making, I don't know, the promise is making a noise. So that's the noise to me, because I don't know the promise, making all these promises. So this will fly over.
Well, whether we can change the narrative, whether there can be some solutions to this. While we're discussing the entire issue of H-1B visa, one question also is whether there is a need to change the narrative, whether there are solutions that could be found, and that's what we'll be looking at right now. Mr. Ravi, do you think there could be a solution to this entire thing? Because it has gone through political rhetoric, it's going through a lot of issues, there's a human aspect to it, where we're talking about people who actually start their lives thinking, I want to go to the US, I will ensure that I will study and I will end up there, and I need an H-1B visa to work there. Right. So do you think there's a solution to this entire thing?
So I think, any solution, there's two sides to it, right? I think you've got to look at the US side of it and the Indian side of it. And let me focus first on the US side of it. I think we need to educate folks that these numbers that are being thrown around are actually a very minuscule part of the US workforce, okay, first and foremost. Second, that actually in US company productivity would be hurt as much as Indian company, IT services companies that lost some of these capabilities. The hurt will be equal. And that, it's not something that you can solve overnight by a fiat of some kind. I think Indian companies over time can start to maybe hire more people there and things like that. You can start to see a blended workforce, maybe a little bit more than they've been already doing. They already have quite a few workers there. They may up that a little bit. Maybe they can contribute a little bit to the skills development there to help some of the folks in the US become more employable and fill the gap. But that's going to take some time.
The government is also looked as one of the problem solvers. Do you think there is a solution that you all also see from the state government that, invite everybody with open arms in case you need to come back?
I think I agree with Ravi when he says the problem is perhaps overstated. We have 13 million people working in Bangalore alone in the IT sector and IT and services sector. And I don't see, the pool of people who may relocate from US to be very, very high as compared to this number. If you're talking about the number of people who are working in US also, the kind of relocation that may happen may also be minuscule. So I think we are overstating the case. But the basic issue is that we should not be swayed away by saying that, look here, this is a tectonic shift which has happened and people will be all driven out of US. I don't think that's going to happen, because we all add value to businesses in US. And that is the primary thing. And even if that happens a bit, I'm sure that the highly skilled jobs that they have in US will be of great use here in Bangalore, for example, in Karnataka, in maybe propelling the jobs here to another level. There are so many new opportunities that are coming in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, and all these things. I'm sure that the people who may relocate, and that will be a very minuscule number, mind you.
Why is it not in their minds to think that, yes, I could go back home and I could contribute back right there? Why do you think that
I think there are human issues involved, and you see, human mind is not always rational. They are driven by fears, they are driven by doubts, they are driven by some other things. So in any case, what I'm saying is we have a thriving economy here, and I'm sure that there will be a plentiful of opportunity for minuscule number of people that relocate.
I'd like to ask the same question. Why do you think the fact that if there is a problem and you need to return back from the United States because that's the point we're talking about, why can't we think, like he said, that we could possibly use our
The US is a very
here?
friendly place for people to stay. The roads are clean, the traffic.
While we're discussing the entire issue of H-1B visa, one question also is whether there is a need to change the narrative, whether there are solutions that could be found, and that's what we'll be looking at right now. Mr. Ravi, do you think there could be a solution to this entire thing? Because it has gone through political rhetoric, it's going through a lot of issues, there's a human aspect to it, where we're talking about people who actually start their lives thinking, I want to go to the US, I will ensure that I will study and I will end up there, and I need an H-1B visa to work there.
Right.
So do you think there's a solution to this entire thing?
So I think, any solution, there's two sides to it, right? I think you've got to look at the US side of it and the Indian side of it. And let me focus first on the US side of it. I think we need to educate folks that these numbers that are being thrown around are actually a very minuscule part of the US workforce, okay, first and foremost. Second, that actually in US company productivity would be hurt as much as Indian company, IT services companies that lost some of these capabilities. The hurt will be equal. And that, it's not something that you can solve overnight by a fiat of some kind. I think Indian companies over time can start to maybe hire more people there and things like that. You can start to see a blended workforce, maybe a little bit more than they've been already doing. They already have quite a few workers there. They may up that a little bit. Maybe they can contribute a little bit to the skills development there to help some of the folks in the US become more employable and fill the gap. But that's going to take some time.
The government is also looked as one of the problem solvers. Do you think there is a solution that you all also see from the state government that, invite everybody with open arms in case you need to come back?
I think I agree with Ravi when he says the problem is perhaps overstated. We have 13 million people working in Bangalore alone in the IT sector and IT and services sector. And I don't see, the pool of people who may relocate from US to be very, very high as compared to this number. If you're talking about the number of people who are working in US also, the kind of relocation that may happen may also be minuscule. So I think we are overstating the case. But the basic issue is that we should not be swayed away by saying that look here, this is a tectonic shift which has happened and people will be all driven out of US. I don't think that's going to happen, because we all add value to businesses in US, and that is the primary thing. And even if that happens a bit, I'm sure that the highly skilled jobs that they have in US will be of great use here in Bangalore, for example, in Karnataka, in maybe propelling the jobs here to another level. There are so many new opportunities that are coming in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, and all these things. I'm sure that the people who may relocate, and that will be a very minuscule number, mind you.
Why is it not in their minds to think that yes, I could go back home and I could contribute back right there? Why do you think that?
I think there are human issues involved, and you see, human mind is not always rational. They are driven by fears, they are driven by doubts, they are driven by some other things. So in any case, what I'm saying is we have a thriving economy here, and I'm sure that there will be a plentiful of opportunity for minuscule number of people that relocate.
I'd like to ask the same question. Why do you think the fact that if there is a problem and you need to return back from the United States because that's the point we're talking about, why can't we think, like he said, that we could possibly use our...
The US is a very friendly place for people to stay. The roads are clean, the traffic, everything is available, the supermarkets are there,
we're not as friendly, we're not
houses
as
are there.
infrastructure.
You come to Bangalore, the roads are full of mud, the traffic is bad, difficult to go to place, the air is foul, you know, law and order something. So it's very easy to live. People want to live in a nice place, they want the children to go there, they want to feel part of a developed environment. Our living environment is very poor, let's admit that. The working atmosphere is much better, living environment is very poor. They want to be there, they see something very different, very nice, so they don't see the same thing here. So I think the natural affinity for people to go there, for them is upward mobility. They go up some 3, 4 notches, 5 notches, 10 notches. When they come back here, they're only up 2 notches, and there's much more competition here. The lesser competition there for the kind of work that they do, and they want to stay there. And here, in everybody's mind, the parents' mind, that generation, going foreign is very good. Going foreign is successful. Going foreign means you achieve something, you have a status. Coming back to India, the status is gone. And maybe they feel the pay is much more poor, even though they spend most of the money there and pay 35–40% tax to Uncle Sam, which is very, very high. So I think there are psychological factors, but people who have stayed here, gone there and come back after 10 years and are working here, they're very comfortable.
No, but there's also an aspect of that we are talking about when we are young, that you need to study well, we'll take you abroad, take you to foreign, you will be able to study there abroad. In the US is much better. It's an absolute, you've got a post-graduation in becoming a US citizen. H-1B is one of those things that are there. You're making a point about how many people also take their wives along, and since they don't want to stay at home, they also take menial jobs. And that's where the threat perception is that the jobs are going away?
See, about 200,000 people are there on H4 and they are allowed to work. But in the last 2 years, H4 people cannot work. That is, the H1B people, their spouses cannot work. But till the 2 years back, H4 people were there. There are about 200,000 of them, and many of them are working in Walmart, Target and so on very, what we can call, clerical jobs, which a white American will be very happy to do.
Right.
So those are the people whom they are looking. Second is, if you look at it, it is just not H1B and global phenomenon. Every country in the world doesn't want Indians. You go to the Middle East, all Kuwait, Saudi, all of them want to localize.
But is there a solution to this issue right now?
It should be there. We have to come back and we have to make better India better. There is no alternative.
You've come back. You are Mera Bharat Mahan. I've come back right here.
I live in US,
yes.
but my heart is in India.
Yes.
So
there you go.
Yeah. See, if you look at the Indian population in US, it's 1% of 350 million, which is 3.5 million. If you look at the working population in IT, that's the population of India, right? It's around 1 million, slightly around 1 million. So Gaurav just said there are 13 million IT people over here,
yes.
And look at the fraction that we are talking over there. And Indians are not married to a location. They are pretty migrant in nature. Wherever there are high-paying jobs, opportunities, they migrate.
They migrate to the opportunities.
They migrate to the opportunities. If tomorrow the opportunity is in Middle East or in Africa, they don't mind moving there. Indians are pretty much not married to a particular location. Yes, they would like the cleanliness of the environments and all those things, But I was able to hire a few guys from US who did not want to stay there.
But is there a quick fix? Do you think there's a quick fix to this?
So I think, see, there are two aspects to it, right? One is the hard piece of it, which is reskilling and everything we've talked about. The second thing is that, I mean, one thing which I always tell people, don't get into the debt trap, right? Because that is where the fear starts coming into you.
Yes.
Now you've spent so much money, you've taken a lot of debt, and when you think your job may go away, right? People living in the US have a very different picture of India, right? When my friends come back, they are sometimes surprised to see, yaar, ye bhi ho gaya, Bangalore mein this is also available, that is also available, because the people, when they went there, they have that kind of a picture in their mind, right? So from there, when they see we have to go back to India and live there, the same picture comes in, right? Dirty roads, traffic, which is true also. I mean, that's not, but then you get used to it, right? I don't really care too much about that these days, right? I know I have to travel to this place, it will take me 2 hours, then so
But
be
you're
it.
talking
Right?
about infrastructure
Right,
here.
so infrastructure is one.
But there's also a social and a human angle
so-
to it,
so
where they feel, what
India-
about my sons and daughters?
Right. So Indians
go
are
there?
generally very social people. They care too much about the society. I would say too much, because they worry, or what will the neighbor think about me? Coming back to India will be a failure, right? So those are the kind of things which go on their minds, right? I've seen people coming back and then going back again, right? Because they thought, yeah, it's not working out here. It was better.
We're running
there.
short of time, but I'd like to quickly ask one last question, which I think is pertinent this time, is how do we see ourselves 3 years from now looking at this kind of situation? Mr. Pai, how do you...
3
what
years
is
from now,
the guideline say?
India will be a land where IP and design and great tech will be the norm. We'll have about 50,000 startups in this country. We'll have from 4.5 million, we'll go to 6 million people working in tech, including in startups. From about $175 billion, we'll have possibly a $225, $240 billion IT industry. And the industry will be much more global, much more oriented towards Asia. And I think it'll be very successful. And I think all these issues that come up will surmount these issues as we have done. So I'm very hopeful of the future. Things are going to be very good for India.
And you agree to that, right?
Absolutely.
3 years from now, we're going to see our own people taking India to a different level.
I think if you talk to the leading tech companies in Silicon Valley and the US, they actually think the silver lining in all this is that India is going to benefit the most.
Yes.
Because the talent is not going to change overnight. They're going to go to where the best talent is. And in fact, the more draconian these H-1B laws become, some of the best companies there that are hiring away some of our talent here will be, because that talent will be forced to be either hired by them here or join Indian companies here, which would benefit us dramatically.
But do you also see that in the next 3 years, the thought pool, the kind of expertise from there would come right back to us and will actually take us 3 notches higher?
One roadblock would be infrastructure. Because today people can't afford a house in HSR layout.
Can that be solved?
And infrastructure,
Mr.
trains
Gupta, can that be
and
solved?
roads and that kind of an infrastructure, if you don't build.
We are
add to
looking
this?
at various alternatives, and we are working at it. I was some days back in Mysore. Mysore is an excellent place to be. There are other centers also being developed. And if you are looking at a wider picture in India, I'm sure that other centers beside Bangalore are also coming up. Not that we have to feel threatened, but what I'm saying is the size of the cake is becoming bigger.
Well, the biggest takeaway in this entire thing is the situation is not as alarming as it is portrayed to be. Rather, India should be really happy with this kind of a decision, like as you're going to see some of the brightest minds actually coming back to the country and taking India to a different level. So it's not just about the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi's promise of Make in India. The made in India products itself will come right back and take us to a different level completely. So at the end of the day, the H-1B visa is something that we all just need to contemplate about. It's just something that takes us as a passport to work in the United States of America, but your heart still lies back in India. So that's what they say. End of the day, Karnataka or India for that matter is ready to, with open arms, to get them all back. On this note, we will only say, and we'll end this entire discussion saying that to visa or not to visa, to H-1B visa or not to H-1B visa, that's not the question anymore. The question is stay in India, make in India, and make India proud. Thank you so much for joining us.